All right, folks, we're going to get going. Could I welcome everybody to day 2 of the AI and Education Summit? Thank you for being here. For those of you where this is day 1 for you that you just got here, welcome. I'm Andrew Whitaker. I'm the communications manager for MIT Raise. Let's see, just a quick rundown of this morning's sessions. We're going to have a talk to start the day. Then we're going to have some very exciting presentations by some of our hackathon winners. Around 11 o'clock, we're going to have a great panel with some media leaders, newspaper editors, CEO of WGBH. Then we'll have lunch and all that. But let me move on to this morning's first speaker. So it's my pleasure to introduce the Honorable Minister Salima Monorma Bah, appointed Sierra Leone's Minister of Communication, Technology, and Innovation in 2023. She was the first person to head the newly created ministry and also one of the youngest cabinet ministers. She served as state counsel at the Law Officers Department, from where she was seconded to the Director of Science, Technology, and Innovation as the policy lead and head of projects, leading all UNICEF project portfolios. She pursued advanced studies by earning a master's degree specializing in intellectual property and technology from Columbia Law School. So let us welcome Minister Bah.
That sounds perfect. Good morning, everybody, students, faculty members, the delegates. It's really a privilege and a profound responsibility to speak here today, not just as a Minister of Communication, Technology, and Innovation for Sierra Leone, but as a representative from a continent where nearly half of the population is under the age of 18, and where the decisions we make today about AI will echo across generations. And yes, I will admit that somewhat appropriately, I believe, for this conference, AI did help me write this speech. But don't worry, I ensured I prompted, I edited, I reviewed the drafts, and I made the final calls, because at the end of the day, responsible AI begins with responsible humans. But ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to start by taking a couple of minutes to reflect on a speech by one of Africa's most celebrated and my absolute favorite author, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Many of you may know her as a brilliant novelist. Some may even recognize her unforgettable voice in the opening of Beyoncé's song Flawless. But most of all, I hope you've encountered her iconic TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story. In that talk, she described how for decades, the story of Africa was told by others through a lens of poverty, war, and corruption. While those stories weren't wholly untrue, they were, however, profoundly incomplete. But that incompleteness became the lens through which the world saw us, judged us, and chose whether or how they invested in us. For a long time, African voices were missing from the systems that shape global perception, and particularly international media. The consequences were significant. Foreign investors stayed away, headlines missed the nuance, and flawed assumptions too often shaped aid, diplomacy, and policy. Then came the internet revolution. And for the first time, Africans began telling our own stories to the world through digital platforms, social media, films, music, and thriving creative communities. And suddenly, the world began to see a different Africa, dynamic, youthful, ambitious, and innovative. And alongside this shift, something remarkable happened. International media began telling different stories about us too. Films like Black Panther don't just entertain, they are disrupting the narrative. Even in fiction, they are portraying an African rooted in strength, brilliance, sovereignty, and wonder. A continent not defined by our scars, but by possibilities. You may be wondering, what does this have to do with AI and education? Well, today, we face a new and pressing danger. Not a danger of a single story by the news, but of a single story of Africa told by algorithms. As you all well may know, artificial intelligence is not just transforming how we learn, teach, and govern, it is increasingly shaping how we are seen. AI systems today power our search engines, social media feeds, credit ratings, investment decisions, and even news creation. These systems are becoming the new authors of perception, automating decisions about who gets flagged as a security risk, which regions are considered risky for investment, and what stories are told about countries like mine. But here's the truth. AI systems do not invent narratives from scratch. They learn from what exists online: historical data, digitized records, media archives, and institutional knowledge. And therein lies the risk, because for much of Africa, digital records are thin. Across the continent, we are still racing to digitize the very foundations of our societies. In many of our countries, critical records, birth and land registration, school transcripts, government archives remain paper-based or scattered across disconnected systems. A 2023 World Bank assessment found that over half of public sector systems in sub-Saharan Africa remain only partially digitized or entirely offline. And so the danger returns, not as a foreign journalist with a biased pen, but as an algorithm trained on incomplete datasets. An AI model trained on old economic reports may label African markets as too volatile, even when stability has improved. A learning system might struggle to support multilingual learners in low connectivity areas, not because they are less capable, but because they were never in the data. A global AI assistant might describe Sierra Leone only as a post-conflict nation, without recognizing our digital progress, innovation hubs, or AI pilot programs. In this way, AI can quietly entrench a new kind of a single story, one that is harder to spot, harder to challenge, and harder to correct. When our languages, identities, and histories are missing from the data, we are either misrepresented or made invisible. This is why we must act urgently to ensure that we bridge the digital divide and that Africa's realities, languages, knowledge systems, and ambitions are reflected in the technologies of tomorrow. And that brings me to the most powerful tool we have to ensure this and to respond to this new quiet danger: education. Education is not only our most powerful tool for empowerment, it is also our first and most enduring line of defense against exclusion, misrepresentation, and digital inequality. If we want to change what AI sees, we must equip people, especially young people, to shape what AI becomes. Because no matter how advanced AI system becomes, it cannot reflect what it was never taught. Only education can broaden that scope by empowering people to ask better questions, design better systems, and take control of the technologies that are shaping our future. That is why we must go beyond digital literacy and invest in AI literacy, so that young people can recognize bias, demand transparency, and build solutions that reflect their realities. This is especially urgent for Africa. By 2050, 1 in every 3 children in the world will be African. That's not just the future users of AI, they're the future builders, teachers, leaders. And yet, most AI tools are still built for high bandwidth environments, trained on datasets that exclude our experiences and deployed in languages that we do not speak. So the real question is no longer, how can Africa catch up to AI? It is, how can AI catch up to Africa? Because if we're building the future of education without designing for where most of the world's learners actually live and learn, then we are not building for the world, we're building for a privileged few. That is why this summit matters. Because here, we affirm that responsible, inclusive, and localized AI begins in the classroom. It begins with teachers who understand the tools, students who can question them, and policies that protect equity as much as they promote innovation. In Sierra Leone, we have embraced this challenge because we understand that bridging the AI divide is not only about access to technology, but about agency. It's about ensuring that our youth are not just passive recipients of AI-driven tools, but active participants in shaping how these tools are designed, used, and governed. We believe that responsible and inclusive AI must be rooted in context, culture, and capacity. And we are proud to be building a model that reflects this vision. Let me share some of the key ways Sierra Leone is moving from policy to practice. First, by positioning AI as a national priority. We have placed AI at the heart of Sierra Leone's digital development agenda. Through my ministry, we are finalizing a national AI readiness assessment mapping our foundational capacity across infrastructures, human capacity, and governance. We are drafting Sierra Leone's first national AI strategy grounded in ethics, inclusion, and local context with education at its core. In our National Innovation and Digital Strategy, developed in 2018, we embrace the concept of positioning Sierra Leone as an AI lab, where we create an enabling environment to seed, test, and scale the most innovative AI-driven solutions in the region. Second, we're supporting local innovation for local impact. In Sierra Leone, we're not waiting for solutions to be imported, we're building our own, with and for our communities. Examples of homegrown innovation in the education sector include SenseBoard in local language, which means smart students, is a gamified AI-powered driven platform developed locally and currently being piloted in schools across the country. Teacher AI is a WhatsApp-based assistance using natural language processing to support teachers with real-time feedback and resources, especially in rural and underserved areas. Our Learning Hub in a Bag initiative deploys solar-powered offline AI servers delivering AI-enhanced learning to the last mile with no internet required. Third, we're driving capacity building. We know that meaningful AI adoption must begin with people, not just platforms. That's why we're investing in the knowledge, confidence, and creativity of our educators and students. With support from partners like MIT Raise, we are piloting AI literacy training sessions in schools, introducing learners and teachers to the fundamentals of AI, what it is, how it works, and why it matters. This is part of establishing a deliberate national pipeline to integrate AI education into our basic and senior secondary school curriculum. Fourth, we're investing in critical infrastructure. No AI strategy can succeed without the infrastructure to support it. Sierra Leone is investing heavily in connectivity as the foundation for digital learning and innovation. We are expanding broadband access, fiber optic backbone, and last mile connectivity to ensure that every school and community has the tools to benefit from AI enhanced education. We recently launched West Africa's first open access 5G network. This is a milestone that unlocks affordable, high-speed connectivity for startups, schools, government services, and rural innovators. And finally, we are contributing to regional collaboration efforts. We recognize that the future of AI in Africa must be shaped not in silos, but through collaboration, coordination, and a shared continental vision. This is why Sierra Leone is actively engaging in regional efforts to align our policies, share best practices, and champion African priorities on the global stage. We strongly support the African Union's continental AI strategy, which offers a unified framework for advancing ethical, inclusive, and rights-based AI development across the continent. We are also proud to be a member of the newly established African AI Policy and Governance Council, which brings together policymakers, researchers, and innovators to help shape Africa's collective approach to AI governance and opportunity. As an active participant in regional bodies and ministerial networks, Sierra Leone is contributing to critical conversations around data governance and digital sovereignty, cross-border AI research and innovation, shared infrastructure for digital public goods, and the development of a continental standard for safe, inclusive, and transparent AI adoption. Through these partnerships, we affirm our belief that Africa's AI future must be built together and on our own terms. But as ambitious as our efforts are, we understand that we cannot do this alone. The challenges we face are global, and the solutions must be too. Building responsible, inclusive AI for education is not the task of a single ministry, a single government, or a single continent. It requires deep, value-driven partnerships across government, academia, industry, and civil society. Because while national leadership is essential, it must be matched by global solidarity. So, as we integrate AI deeper into classrooms and learning systems around the world, we must also ask difficult but necessary questions. Who defines what responsible AI in education looks like? Whose values are embedded in the algorithms? Who owns the data? Who is accountable when things go wrong? And most importantly, who gets to participate in shaping these answers? Responsibility cannot be retrofitted. It must be designed from the start. From the data sets we train on, to the tools we build, and to the policies that govern their use. Our histories have taught us the cost of being excluded from systems of power, knowledge, and design. We cannot afford to repeat that mistake in the digital age. We must therefore root our efforts in globally recognized ethical frameworks, such as the UNESCO recommendation on ethics of artificial intelligence. This offers a common set of values and principles to guide the development and deployment of AI in human-centered, inclusive, and rights-based ways. In closing, distinguished guests, if there's one thing this summit makes clear, it is that no one nation, no single institution can build a responsible AI future alone. Africa is doing its part, investing in infrastructure, developing enabling policies, piloting solutions, training teachers, and designing systems grounded in equity and context. But we know that our success depends on partnerships, on a global community that shares not just tools but values. As a representative of that region, here is what we ask of you. We ask that institutions like MIT and many others represented here work with us, not just as implementers, but as co-creators to build systems and reflect the full diversity of the world of learners. We ask for open source, multilingual AI learning tools that reflect our languages, our cultures, and our curricula. Research and funding that include and empower educators, developers, and students in underrepresented regions. Collaborations that listen before they build. Ethical frameworks and technical standards that are not only universal in principle, but also adaptable in practice. And we ask, most of all, that as we race towards innovation, we do not leave humanity behind. Let us build AI that remembers the learner in the village, not just the student in the smart classroom. That is our call, not for charity, but for collaboration. Because in the end, education is not about data points, it is about dignity, possibility, and the right to a future defined by one's own story. I thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much, Minister Bah. A great vision for possibilities between, partnerships between Sierra Leone, Africa, MIT, and other institutions that need to be part of this future.